remind me at 8 o'clock, if you don't mind being the time sheriff, for us to move to the public hearing.
Sure.
I need a motion in a second to adopt our minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
Any questions or clarifications? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We'll move now to our presentation by the Nyack Climate Action Plan. We're going to do 10 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes of questions. If we end up where we need more time, we will open up we'll open up a workshop for the 12th, and we'll have a whole half hour to continue if we need it. Okay. So we'll just give us the high points or whatever you want to give us. I wasn't able to read the whole thing. I read sort of half of it. I didn't get through the whole thing. So maybe having something on the 12th we'll be interested in doing anyways. Marcy and Steve.
You can advance the slides. Okay, so I'm Marcy Danker. I'm the chair of the Nyack Climate Smart Committee with Steve Sia. And we're just giving you a quick overview of what, not the action plan. It's the Nyack 2030 action plan in progress. We started the process in March, basically with kickoff in March. Had working groups through spring, circulated drafts through the summer, have been meeting with many stakeholders and have a draft that's over the next meeting to be prepared to go out to the, you could advance the slide, to the DEC for review. This is a grant funded project, so we need them to check all the boxes for us, and then we'll have it go out for public review. And adopted by the end of the year. The Climate Smart Committee, which has actually blossomed during this process, it really increased and is already planning for the rollout of this plan to the public in January, and to say what it is, how to get involved, and what the priority actions are for 2024. The implementation is 2024 through 2030 in the plan. Next slide. The vision for the plan is a dedicated coalition of village government and community partners will implement climate solutions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the village 75% by 2030, fostering local knowledge and vital alliances and laying the groundwork for effective climate mitigation and adaptation in the years to come. So this plan is about mitigating, it's about reducing greenhouse gases. It's also about laying the groundwork for an adaptation chapter in the future. So preparing the community to deal with climate change as well. It's a perfect time for us to be doing this. There's money coming from the federal government and the state as well in new ways over the past few years. So we want to grab that money. Okay. We've been active in this for 10 years. We're a climate smart community. We're the first bronze certified climate smart community in Rockland. We're about to be the first community in Rockland to do a climate action plan, which is a pretty big deal. And the plan lays out a pathway to do so. This is a sample of what the plan looks like. It lays out a narrative that says, what the vision is, where the gaps are, what we've already done, which is actually a ton. And then it goes into the next page, the action list, which is just, this is a tiny sample of these really detailed checklists with partners and resources that for people to use to carry it out.
So our starting point was a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We did that as a baseline in 2018. There are 2 domains associated with it, one for government operations and the second for community inventory. Go ahead. The community generally. So we did an inventory, and then we came up with the actions that Marcy just showed you. Those actions we forecast to see what the actual emissions reductions would be for those groupings of action. That's what these 2 charts are. These are 2 charts that are actually in the plan and show you the significance of each action and how it contributes to an overall reduction of about 81% combined between the 2 domains, government and community. Our target's 75%. But we use these forecasts to drive what the target would be. and have a little bit of a cushion in case some of our assumptions or we don't hit the actual target on some of the activities. It gives us a little bit of latitude that we could hit the 75% by 2030 overall between the two domains. Okay. The community is the inventory component is specifically the village of Nyack. Although in terms of the actions that we'll be taking, we have partners in Upper Nyack and South Nyack that will be helping us implement those actions, not only here in Nyack, but in those other communities as well. But the inventory itself is specifically the boundaries of the village of Nyack. And those government actions include reductions in emissions from buildings, streetlights. Village has already done a lot of these things since 2018, but the plan calls for further progress in those areas. In the purchase of expanding clean energy supplies, establishing policies and regulations associated with some of those actions, coordinating and supporting community outreach, and as we've done before, leading by example. So the plan has 4 focus areas. The first 3, transportation, energy, the built environment, and waste, they all contribute to emissions and part of the inventory. Natural resources are not part of the inventory, but still a critical component of the overall environment within the community. I'm going to talk about 2 of those focus areas. The first is transportation. This slide shows some of the priority actions that we are looking for. Transportation represents a fairly significant component of the emissions. And so we're looking at increasing electric vehicles, adaptation, expanding transportation alternatives, public transit, as a major way of reducing the emissions from the transportation side. On the next slide, you're going to see energy and built environment. And the priority actions here as outlined are the purchase of renewable energy. As I had indicated, you're already doing a significant job by implementing the community choice aggregation, something the village has done over the last few years. And then the purchasing of clean energy contracts for some of the large commercial and government entities. We also want to improve energy efficiency, electrification, moving away from fossil fuels and to an electric, and then the installation of rooftop solar and other solar projects. And the next is waste.
Yeah, so the village is part of the leading edge on this one too, with reducing food waste. The goal here is to reduce emissions from landfills, the methane emissions that come from leakage in landfills. And so the big goal is to reduce waste overall, but there's lots of little pieces to go to, from campaigns to get people to think about how they buy food, to how they throw it away, and how to recycle and so forth. Next slide. The other part, natural resources, is something that Nyack truly is a leader on. We have, over the past 10 years, established policies and practices to model how to really care for the natural environment, plant trees, take care of them, plant model landscapes with native plants and pollinator-friendly plantings. And the big focus here is how to coordinate people who are already active to build on that and to sort of expand it outside of our borders. And it's already happening. So this is a really exciting area. So finally, last slide, almost last slide, this is the key to this is actually establishing really strong communication networks and partnerships and methods, and keeping the messaging out there. We want to not just have this as a published plan, but have it as a website, have the first step that we talked about last night in the committee was to develop a outreach and education strategy, which actually is a climate smart communities action. The next slide. This is the team that the steering committee who were great in guiding this. And the last slide is the list of our now pretty beefy climate smart committee that is going to set us up to work on this plan. So we feel really happy. We thank you for your support and welcome your questions.
Okay, so since the presentation of the board, I'd like to give the board first shot at any questions or any thoughts about this. I'm really surprised you didn't put the leaf blower thing in there. I mean, that would have been.
Wait, there's so much to put in.
And the 15-minute presentation includes the food.
Okay, fair enough.
Cut for
Fair enough.
space.
Yeah, we got cut for that. Okay.
Oh.
Seriously, just kidding. But,
No,
we were, can I start? Is that all right with
Yeah.
everybody? We were invited and I was not able for some reason to log on to the final presentation of the Orange and Rockland's preparation for disasters and also for some of these issues. Are they involved in coordinating with us, or do they have their sort of own thing and we need to coordinate with
I
them?
think you're referring to their vulnerability
Yeah,
assessment. Yeah, I've been on those calls
okay.
and,
For some reason, I couldn't get on. I don't know why, but it's
Yeah.
probably me.
yeah, it's obviously it's a really different kind of set of concerns that aren't, but it's good for us to be paying attention and hearing. It's really fascinating to hear what the comments from the PSC about what they're doing. It's scary, it's, and it's also, what I said is, this is about sort of laying the foundation for, Nyack applied for a grant to do a vulnerability assessment of their own next year.
Okay,
So, this will be really important information for us, that ONR has, and after they do their vulnerability assessment, they'll do an adaptation plan.
so there's also just a couple other thoughts. One is you didn't mention Central Nyack. And there is a possibility of some of the affordable subsidized housing in Nyack, which includes Central Nyack, our housing authority, going through a process of being renovated to meet the new stretch code.
Oh.
Yeah. So there is that possibility. It's not, no one's decided it yet, but that's been, we would have to push the stretch code. But the fact that we have already adopted it, that would mean that would be part of the process of rebuilding it. So there's both Rockland Gardens, which is right now going through a process of getting an IDA agreement for a tax issue. And for tax, I'm trying to remember exactly how it's worded, but what it would be is that their assessment would not go up for 10 years. But their taxes would stay the same as they are now, but they want to do a renovation of the entire project. If we can get that done for all of our affordable housing and move to the stretch code, and that would, I think, add a lot to this.
So we avoided sort of getting into some of these kinds of questions, when we were planning this presentation.
Sure.
We've been having a hard time getting information about the Nyack Housing Authority, but it seems like a huge thing to talk about.
Yeah, so we can, if you want to invite me and Carl Washington to the next meeting, we can see if we can come. I mentioned this to him this afternoon when I met with him. He was not aware of it, but there is that possibility. We are all aware of it. We had a presentation made to us by HCR at the state level. And we were supposed to have a conference call with the Housing Authority Board and the Trustee Board. And then I won't go further than this, but that didn't happen because of the transition of leadership up at the Housing Authority. So now there is a possibility for us to re-engage that discussion. So it's something I think is very worthwhile, and to ensure that we're getting everything that we want from a sustainability perspective built into these rebuilds.
That's great.
So my last thought, and then I know I've probably taken up 5 of the 10 minutes, but one of the components that I think is really important after this gets done is that we really stay on top of the legislative agendas and the issues, because there's a lot of movement in the CCA to either do away with it or have it taken over by some of the by like Orange and Rockland and Central Hudson. And I really think we need to watch that really carefully so that we make sure that it's community-based, community, sort of the sponsored idea. And that it doesn't get out of that community aggregation model into a different strategy. So that, I know I don't want to talk about that now. I just want to make sure that we have legislative process put in place at the end of the plan. So we're watching those carefully through our sustainability committee.
I just want to thank you so much for saying that, clearly, because Peggy Kurtz, who works for Jewel and is, our sort of brain on that issue for CCA, community choice aggregation, is on the energy committee. And, that's a really top priority to figure out how to deal with getting people clean energy in their homes.
Yeah, and I think we can do a better job within our community as well. And I know Peggy has been working really hard at that. But we do need to do a better job of getting the information out to people, what it actually means and how it really moves this agenda forward. So maybe when we get ready to launch this, that could be part of the process afterwards.
Right.
So I'll shut up. Anyone else with thoughts or questions?
I just wanted to say I thought the report was, it was great. I really enjoyed reading it. Is it not final? Because I noticed there were some pieces in it that were like placeholders.
And there's probably some like remaining little typos.
There were dates and stuff that were
Yeah,
left open.
like that kind of stuff, but it's totally doable for us to get this out to the DEC by the end of September. We already had people from the Climate Smart Community Program look at it and say, yeah, you did everything that you're supposed to do. And they also invited Steve and me to talk in December to other communities who are trying to do this because they like to talk.
Yeah, I appreciate particularly the identification of things that specifically the village government could do as distinct from things that we could encourage other people to do. But there's things that are within our power, within the organization itself, to be able to make the buildings more energy efficient, to electrify the fleet, things like that we recommend, which I thought were really strong. The other thing that jumped at me, and the one thing I wanted to comment on, was there's a point, all of these incentives right now for consumers to switch from, I'm not even sure what they relate to, but I know there's more energy efficient, probably getting rid of gas and replacing it with heat pumps and things like that. At the federal, and I think also the state level. I think that the government, the village could play an important role, as you suggest, in trying to educate people about those and really trying to simplify those processes, because they are complicated. I mean, if you're like you all and you're very involved in this stuff, it all makes sense. But I get confused, and I'm a relatively educated person, and like trying to figure it out. I know if I sat down and I spent some time, I could figure it out, but finding the time is tough.
Even more confused.
But I do think unconfusing it and having good explainers with opportunities to do Zooms or meetings to really, and mailings to drive home to people, because there's a lot that could be done just on individual homeowners doing it for their properties, to do things that I think would be good for them, good for their health. Getting rid of gas stoves and replace them would be better for their health, because the gas has their health effects with that. And also become more energy efficient, which would help the village be more energy efficient. So I thought that was a great recommendation, and it's something that I feel really strongly about, that we should be informing the community about the opportunities that are there for them. That's good.
Well, one of the actions that cuts across the focus areas is a communication plan. And the way we communicate and get information out to people is going to be part of that plan. At the initial kickoff meeting, we had the library director who thought, the library could be a resource for a list of people who have already done, let's say, a solar installation or induction stove, or have done it. And then if a community member wants to learn something from someone who's actually gone through it, there'll be a resource there available to them. So the communication piece is really significant, and trying to break down all those incentive programs so that people can understand what they're eligible for. Is something that's a component of the plan, and something we have to work really hard on.
Including the what was the community power, the community choice aggregation,
Right.
which we had 1,700 out of 3,200 is not bad. That signed up for it. I know
Yeah, it's kind of surprising.
That's
Yeah,
half.
we were hoping for 75% when
Yeah.
we started, so.
So
No, it's not done yet.
Communications
Well,
is really key.
the first
We
First
know-
round, we were hoping.
We know that it's sort of how much it costs to send mailings, so, one of the things that I started thinking of just recently is like, who's gonna pay for that if we really want to get somebody to open up a publication with some pages that they're really gonna read, not from trash? And when I was talking to the COO at Nyack Hospital about what they're doing, I had a publication like that. I said, do you think that you could, maybe the hospital could help, partner with us on putting together a mailing publication? He said, yeah, I think so. So we need to look into ways to keep getting the word out that
Yeah.
people can really get informed.
In multiple ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pascal, Marie?
I think, I've sat in on a lot of the meetings. And it's an overall climate thing, okay? And there are many components. And one of them is we in the village have already been participating in composting, okay? Which is a vital piece also of all of this. And now we have what the DPW, where for the food scraps and all of this. So there are many components and many people are invited to participate because you've got areas where they need to be educated, to be made aware of, and you guys have been doing a fantastic job and got a long way to go, but we're making great headway.
Yeah, I think Nyack's the perfect place to do this,
Pascal?
Yeah, I'm still working my way through it, but this report is
It's a
really
lot.
great. Yeah, but it really is in line with a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing through, work and everything, especially with electrifying buildings. Passing the All Electric Building Act was really key this year, so I think that's really gonna help with the village and pushing those goals. I also do like that the Environmental Bond Act information was mentioned. There was a listening session over in Westchester a couple of weeks ago, which really broke down the areas that a lot of this money is going to be funneled through, and I can definitely see a lot of that coming to the village to sort of help bolster our climate smart area. And I think this plan really does lay out a good roadmap to doing that. So kudos to you guys.
So just in closing, thank you so much. Please thank the committee for us, for your work. We're excited to see the final product and to endorse it. And I hope, and I'm pretty sure you'll see the village board endorse your process and try to help make this happen. I think we've seen that in the past while I was here, and Joe's gonna bring the same sort of leadership into next year. And I know the new trustees feel the same way about these things. So we're really excited about what you're doing. We're glad to be the leaders. We'll continue to be the leaders and the voice that you ask us to. And anything that we can do to help along the way, please let us know.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you'd like, Joe, I'm not going to do public on this. If you want to do public comment later, but I'm not.
I just have a question.
If you'd like to have a workshop on the 12th, and where we can sort of advertise the workshop and bring more people in, might help in the education process as well.
Right.
So
We'll work something through.
work with that with Andy if that's something that you're interested in. Joe, I never not allow people to ask questions, but I really want to move this along, and this is really just a presentation to the board. But
What you just said, you just mentioned stretch code. What is it? What is the stretch code?
it's actually a New York State building code that added a bunch of environmental issues into what our code is. We were one of the leaders we were one of the first villages in the state to adopt the New York stretch code last year.
It's not required, at least not yet. It
Wasn't required, but we adopted.
We adopted it. It's a series of recommendations for new construction and energy efficiency.
And our sustainability committee was a huge influence in bringing that to us and helping us work with it. Okay, we are now, we're 5 minutes from 8, so we're going to start with public comment on any of our action items. Probably by the time I go through them, we'll be at 8 o'clock and we'll open the public hearing. So our first action item is for us to accept our audited voucher. The second is for us to approve an HR piece for standard workday for our village attorney. The third is for us to approve a street closure for a Halloween night market on October 6th. The fourth is for a consulting agreement to renew a consulting agreement with Brooker Engineering as our village engineer. The fifth is for us to expand the street closure on the date of the Halloween parade to include a 2-hour window to do pumpkin painting on South Broadway that Maria Luisa and the Chamber have put together. The sixth is for us to approve the application for the New York State Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Andy, when we get to that, I think that's when we'll have you present that to us. The seventh is for us to approve funding to the YMCA for the Nyack Hoops program. The eighth is for us to award the contract for the paving of the marina parking lot. Yay, team. The ninth is for us to approve the award for the South Nyack CDBG sidewalk. And the 10th is for us to approve our review and sort of restatement of our filming law. So those are all of our resolutions for tonight. Are there any public comment on any of them? Please.
Just a quick, so Joe Carlin, just a quick clarification. In the minutes of last meeting, you made a change to the directly impacted merchant description. And you added, after discussion, at a minimum with the illustrative examples. In the resolution that's appearing before the board tonight, at a minimum is taken out. So I'm just wondering if that's an oversight or that's you have a reason for doing that. Take a look at the.
That's not in there. The public hearing's closed for that legislation.
No, I'm not debating the.
No, I understand. He just asked me, can we talk about the public hearing, but that public hearing is not for that legislation.
No, I thought it was, okay.
We can certainly discuss that when we get to the, I did not realize that was taken out. We can add it again if people are interested in adding that. I think it was pretty much, we sort of tabled the resolution at the end so that it really wasn't, that was voted into the resolution, but the resolution was tabled. So we never got to vote on the resolution. That's the only explanation I have for why it's not included.
Right, and the resolution is being voted on today.
Right. So we can do the same thing that we did the last time. Is added in if the board is interested in doing it.
Okay, just. If you look at the book.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed amendments to Chapter 360 of the Village of Nyack Code,
So made,
Second.
so as to exempt
Oops.
the removal of a single significant tree from planning board review and approval. I have a motion from Marie, a second from Pascal, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. The public hearing is now open. Are there any comments about that legislation? Steve and then Joe.
Yeah, so I first wanted to thank the board for reconsidering. I was here at the last meeting and there were some questions that were outstanding and gave some time for us to kind of resolve those. So one thing that I'd like to sort of point out first is that these revisions sort of resolve some outstanding issues. The first is that it reduces the number of applications heard by the planning board. It also ensures that replacement trees will be planted. It provides an independent expert to assist in the removal decision process. It also recognizes the importance of tree preservation within the community. So there's some revisions that I'll point out. The first is that it vests the approval authority with the building department. It restores the significant tree size back to 8 inches. It allows the building inspector to obtain independent assessment from a certified arborist as needed. It allows the property owner to remove one healthy significant tree with a permit every 3 years. And the planning board still retains the jurisdiction over tree removal for large projects. So the process is pretty straightforward. Property owner wishing to remove a significant tree files a permit. The building inspector inspects the tree. If it's dead, diseased, or hazardous, the building inspector can approve the permit immediately. If there's a question with regard to that, the inspector has the option of soliciting some expert opinion from a trained professional at the village's expense. After the consultation, if the tree is considered healthy and not hazardous, then the property owner can still remove the tree under that healthy tree provision. The property owner will then either be responsible for replacing the tree on their existing property, one tree for every 8 inches of diameter that's removed. And if the property owner can't replace the tree on their property, then they can pay into a fund to replace it in other places within the village as per whatever the standard fee schedule dictates at that time. So if the tree is dead, diseased, or hazardous, then there's no cost to the property owner. They don't have to replace the tree, and they don't have to contribute to the fund. So we think that these changes sort of address the planning board's workload and strike a balance between the community benefits of tree preservation and the rights of the property owner. So we appreciate the board's consideration. That's, I hope, a little overview.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, I beg to differ. I think that, and we just had a presentation of the climate action plan, and one of the components was tree protection. And I think that this change in the code to allow a healthy tree to be taken down by the homeowner, I think that might call, you'll start hearing a lot of chainsaws being pulled up. And it'll basically cause a partial degreening of the village. And I think taking down a tree should only be allowed if it's diseased, damaged, or a danger to others. I think that the building department should be allowed to determine whether a tree should be taken down because of disease or damage. And I think perhaps that we should have a village arborist or contract with a village arborist who will then make that determination and not depend upon the homeowner's arborist coming in and making that determination. So I think it basically, I don't see any benefit. I think it can cause a down the line unintended consequences. And I respectfully recommend that this resolution either be modified or voted down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I guess I'll just chime in that this has been discussed for years in the tree committee, and it does represent a compromise because the planning board has been asked to reduce the burden on them with these applications, and also that the applications come in and almost all of them are the tree removal permits are approved anyway. So this represents an attempt to get a little bit a better compromise or handle on the situation. But I totally agree that the village should have an ISA certified arborist do tree assessments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll hold the hearing open for the rest of the meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, we'll talk about where we're going to go with it. All right, so that we can move through the agenda items. We have a bunch of people here I know that want to talk to us about one specific issue, so. Let's move through our line so that we don't hold up people and make them stay here longer than they need to. Of course, we'd love to have you stay for the whole meeting and enjoy our presence, but we know that everybody has busy lives. I would entertain a motion and a second on the resolution to accept our audited voucher summary.
Motion.
Motion from Pascal, second from Marie. Thank you, Marie.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We're going to next approve the standard workday for our village attorney, Dennis Michaels, for the New York
Discussion.
State local retirement services. I need a motion and a second.
So made.
Second. Motion from Marie, second from Joe. Any questions? This is standard. Everybody does this every year.
You want to work 7 hours for us? Is that
7 days.
7 days an hour? Or-
No, the standard workday is 7 hours, and the number of days that's put in there is based upon a calendar that I have to submit. It's like an average per month. You should know that's just what's documented. There are many calls, text messages, and even
We keep them.
Well, we do that. Yeah, we do
that
that
are
also.
not calendared, so they're
Right.
not, I don't, that's the bare bones minimum. It's significantly higher than that, but that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. For the next resolution is to approve the street closure for South Broadway for October 6th. For the Halloween night market. Marie's motion,
Second.
second from Pascal. Any questions?
I want to do the pumpkin.
No, that's the next one. That's the next one, not this one.
Isn't there separate or is it just to?
One's on the 6th and one's on the 28th.
No, just, I'm saying like, why is the pumpkin painting not on the same day?
That's that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
They did, this is what they requested.
Okay.
See anybody here from the chamber, so,
Oh.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is the resolution for us to approve a consulting agreement for the renewal of Brooker Engineering as our village engineer.
So made.
Motion from Marie, second from Pascal. Any discussion?
The one where they got acquired, and that's why this is necessary. Is that what it is?
No, I think it's a yearly issue. One of the things that Andy and I talked about today as this resolution came up was that it's good practice for the board to review and maybe consider going out to RFP like every 3 to 5 years as a standard practice. We've done that pretty much except with the engineering. I think this is the right thing to do for this time, but the next time you may want to consider an RFP and consider how the village should structure itself for our engineering services. But I think we should do this one this time.
But I'm just saying, there's a
They
letter in
did
the
just
packet
merge, yeah.
about they were, it looks like acquired. By a larger company, Western and Sampson, so the contract's really gonna end up being, it's gonna be assigned to Western and Sampson, correct?
Andy?
Yeah, they merged.
Okay,
They've been assured by Weston and Sampson that EMAC, who's will continue to be our lead engineer.
The question is, should this resolution say Weston and Sampson, or should it say Brooker?
Good question there.
I think that's your
Double
question.
check.
I think that's why, because I mean, I wouldn't have known about it other than the fact that the letter's in the packet,
Yeah.
in that section, which,
Yeah, why don't we?
I think that
we add Weston and Sampson to it.
Okay. Let's have
you want to just amend it?
amendment to the resolution to include the name Brooker Engineering / Weston Sampson. I will move it. Pascal, will you second it?
Second.
Vote on the amendment itself. All in favor? Opposed? Now we're back to the motion that's on the table with that amendment. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next is for, Marie wants to move
Yes.
the trade pumpkin painting. It's opening up closing the streets a couple hours early. Marie's the
Yes.
motion. Joe's the second.
That you do.
Any further discussion?
If you recall, they did, the genesis of this is they did this during the year that we didn't have the parade.
Mhm.
And it was very popular to do something for the kids earlier in the afternoon, so they're bringing it back, which I think is a great idea.
We were trying to figure out where that came from,
Yeah.
so yes, thank you, that's good. I
They
forgot
did
exactly.
it- they did it when we had when we canceled the parade, they
Yep.
did like they called it the promenade, the Halloween promenade, they closed the street, and they did like kids' activities and stuff. Yeah, which was very nice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The next is for us to approve the application for the DRI program. Let's get the motion on the table and then ask Andy to present to us the projects that are in it.
So made.
Second.
You're on, Andy.
I have a handout for you. Maybe Pascal, you could help me get this code on.
Is it this?
Yes, looks like the same thing.
Good, maybe there's some big one.
I have a few extras here if anybody's interested.
So while Andy's passing that around, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and the New York Forward grant is the DRI is a $10 million grant, which is basically for the revitalization of downtown. The New York Forward is for 2 and 4 million. We're applying for both with the same grant. It's done so that you have a budget for the DRI and a budget specifically for the New York Forward. There's been a committee that's been meeting. The DRI committee has been meeting for the last probably month and a half, 2 months. We've been discussing, doing a lot of work, bringing projects together. Kim Cross is on that committee. Joe was at our meeting, Joe Carlin at our last meeting. I know that anybody else here is on that committee, but basically what we're doing tonight is just approving the submission of projects. The way this will work is, I'm just gonna be real bold and say, after we are awarded the DRI this time around,
Yes.
we will, we will then be assigned a planner, a corporate planner who will come in and help us work through all of our projects in a really broad-based process, including the community with developers and the people that are coming up with these ideas. There'll be decisions made about what we will and won't do, and then the process will start to revitalize our community. And you'll see some of the projects that we have in here are pretty exciting things. So, and
Mayor, it's a nice introduction to that. The state program is essentially a planning and a funding rolled together. So if our list of projects and sort of general pitch for the village is successful, we'll be in a position to move forward with feasibility analysis on the projects listed here and others that might arise in that planning process. And then ultimately the state reserves for itself a decision as to what to fund and at what level. The projects we have here are really exciting. They've been developed a bit since the last couple of applications the village put together. We have the gateway improvement. Everybody knows the freeway underpass coming over 59 is kind of gloomy and foreboding. But a lot of people actually have to walk through there and drive through there to get to the supermarket and other shops. There's a lot of apartments near there, and there's hotels and bus stops and so on. So an aesthetic overhaul of that with lighting and murals akin to what you see when you come over the walking path from the bridge through that tunnel that was actually designed by a Nyack artist is the goal of that project. It'd be an amazing overhaul of that gateway to the village and send a strong message about the sort of the cultural vitality and so on. The Nyack Intercept project is a big drainage project essentially aimed at reducing the risk of flooding in the Nyack Brook by diverting a bunch of water that comes through the drainage system to the brook straight to the Hudson River from the north side of the village. The Angel Nyack project is a beautiful project to retrofit the First Reformed Church here on South Broadway. They've got about $2.5 million in private funding, and they're looking for money to outfit the church to better offer cultural performances and as a wedding venue, which would be the revenue generating side of that nonprofit organization. The Central District parking garage and mixed use development structure will be behind Village Hall, the parking garage with retail and housing built into it. It requires the cooperation of the owners of that property. And they've been talking with each other, and we're hopeful that will move forward if the state sees fit to support it. The village obviously needs parking, and business depends on that, residents depend on it. The Marina Bulkhead Restoration Project, essentially where the River Club used to be. That space for a restaurant is empty now since the demolition of that building. And it can't be redeveloped until the bulkhead wall there is replaced because it's falling down. Nobody wants to build a restaurant on a site with a wall falling down. So it's an economic development investment. If the state's willing to pay for the wall, I'm sure we'll find somebody to put a restaurant down there. The street fair security removal bollard project it's a small project of $50,000, but essentially addresses the problem we have with this village. Plays post that tens of thousands of people for street fairs, and we have to park our DPW vehicles as security measures. If we start investing in removable bollards that are attractive and designed in an artistic way, we'll be able to make those passages into the fair more accessible for people, not having to walk around a big truck, and also reduce the staffing needed to maintain security. There are a couple of new ones here. The 30 South Franklin Street mixed-use affordable and public safety project would essentially redevelop the police substation, including the police, but put more floors on it and have it be some kind of affordable or supportive housing. That's a village-owned property. The 156 Bird Street is a private development project of affordable housing, which has potential for up to 26 small apartment rentals and retail along the first floor with underground garage. The DRI can pay for demolition and soft costs for design and so on. The waterfront walkway is something we all hold near and dear. We've been working on that walkway across the marina, and obviously you want to get across the waterfront in the most ADA accessible way you can. Right now it's gravel to those benches and picnic tables. And so a walkway that connects the end of the pedestrian bridge over to the viewing pier is a natural next element of that park development. So we put in for that. That was also a subject of one of our CFA applications recently. The YMCA expansion is an exciting proposal. You'll hear a lot more about that from the Y in the next year. They're doing their fundraising kickoff at their gala in December. They're aiming to take that building which they own, which has the retail shops just to the south of the Y, and convert that over to recreational use with a pool, fitness and educational facilities and other things. They're undertaking they have conceptual designs for that, and they're looking to get support for that project. The two other projects, which are standard for every DRI application, are a marketing and branding and wayfinding signage project, where it makes it easier for people to get around the village, that it kind of makes some coherent signage strategy along with an investment in a marketing process. Visit Nyack and others have done a great job promoting the village, and this would be supportive of those efforts. Lastly, the Downtown Revitalization Fund is also standard stock and trade for downtown revitalization, which is essentially a small grant fund for capital projects involved businesses, things like facades, commercial kitchen, upgrades, sidewalks, stuff like that, to help to animate and improve small businesses that want to make those investments in their properties. So that, Mayor, trustees, is our current list of projects. We're still doing some fine tuning on that, and have a lot of work to do to complete the application narrative. I'm working with Sylvia Welch, who's a wonderful grant writer, and with our committee, who's offered a lot of really good feedback. And I'm hopeful that we'll get comments tonight that'll help me kind of finalize this project.
We're gonna focus this from the board for comments, because there is there have been a couple of public meetings where people could give comments, so this is a presentation to the board for us to review. So are there any questions or comments about this list of projects?
I hope we get them.
I've already announced it. So
Yeah, weird. When do they come, when do they come in? When do we
You
get the answer?
always submit end of September, you're always waiting and they start announcing awards as
hard
part
to
of the
tell.
state. And when they get to you, they get to you, you know, December, February, something like that.
It's done by region, so there's 10 regions and they sort of roll them out by region. Depending on who's the ones that they need most votes from.
These the four highlighted are the new ads, right?
Those are new.
For some of the housing ones, are those projects that are in the works that we know of? How come some of the new housing wasn't included in that, or just it's because it's been built already?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
projects that are under construction aren't eligible for the funding.
And then how did you get to these two? Were there any others that were?
No, I mean, these are just two that having 30 South Franklin Street, which is village owned
Mhm.
in the mix. The state is very, very interested, I know this board is as well, in supporting affordable housing. And so I think these two projects are strengthening our application a lot. One is a public property that we require private financing, obviously, to get it done. And the other is entirely a private project with a strong commitment to affordability. This one by Alex Versta is particularly aimed at workforce, targeting people with 50 to 80% of the area median income. It can take advantage of various subsidies for construction from the state and federal government.
Mhm.
The county has, Office of Community Development has given us a letter of support and, you know, at least preliminarily indicated their interest in supporting construction costs of at least 11 affordable units. So, you know, it's the conversion of a warehouse and a vacant lot into a mixed use project.
Okay. And with the hope that we do get the grant. Does that lock in this group or as a guarantee that they will do it or, you know, can someone switch, change their mind later down the road and say, no, not for market housing instead?
Sure, yeah, ultimately, until the owner of that site has contracts with the financing that they need and so on, they have the opportunity to change direction.
But they wouldn't get the money if they did that.
Right, okay. And there's no other affordable housing projects possibly coming up besides these two
That we know of.
that you know. Yeah.
Well, there's one that we just heard about, a text amendment, which we will be talking about tonight. But other than that, I have not heard of any. I pretty much got my ear to the ground on most of them, but there could be some ones that pop up. Remember that this process gets us to an approval of the funding and the concepts. And then the projects will be chosen and discussed and worked through as we get to the finalization of it. It's similar to what, well, you know. It's similar to what Haverstraw is going through right now, where they had some projects that they wanted to do. And they were changed to, they actually added additional affordable percentages to their stuff because state was giving more money to them for those sorts of things.
Well, I'm hoping, good job, guys, and we're gonna get it. I'm just gonna be confident like the next.
Well, this is the third, this is our fourth application for the DRI. We made to the finals in 2, and 1 we didn't. So this is our fourth one. Any other questions or clarifications? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The next motion, the next resolution is for us to approve funding to the YMCA for the Nyack Hoops program. I think we're all aware that the Nyack Hoops is sort of transitioned from Tyrone McNeil, and we worked with the YMCA to find a way to fund and to support. It was Larry Smith at the time, but now it's Daquan Kerr to be able to run it.
And Do you need the motion voice?
Motion from Marie, second from Pascal. Any further discussion or questions? Right.
I know there was a question at one point to compensation for day one. Does this cover that?
It does cover it, yes. That grant is given to the Y to cover that.
Okay.
Most of the other costs are donated costs.
Mhm.
The school district donates, both the
Yeah.
gyms at the middle school and also the gym at the old high school.
Oh, they're not doing it at BOCES anymore?
That's the old high school.
Oh, the old high school, yeah. I think that's the high school.
So that they can, I use the wrong-
I know it's the old high school. I know it's the old high school.
And, the only thing they have to charge, they charge them for, some custodial grants.
Just for anybody listening, it's a great program. It's mostly teenagers, but also some young adults that play. And it's, you don't have to be a member of the YMCA to do it. The YMCA runs it, but it runs it on a grant from the village, so it's open to everybody. And there's something in there about if you're not a resident, there might be some charge, but I don't think they've implemented that. Have they?
They've implemented it in the past.
Okay.
This year, we've asked for funding to come from the state, so that some of the funding to come through a Zabrowski grant to overcome that.
Okay.
We haven't gotten that grant yet, but this is the amount that we had in our budget. If we get the grant, we'll be able to up it a little bit. But that'll be for a future discussion. It's not a lot, it's $2,500. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our last one then is, oh no, I'm sorry, there's a couple more. To award the contract for the marina parking lot, I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions about this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The next is for the South Broadway sidewalk improvements, the CDBG grant from 2022. Need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second.
What is this?
Marie and Pascal, any questions?
Yeah, where is this for? On South Broadway?
Runs on South Broadway from Bird down to Depew. Across the front of Tallman, the Nyack Center and so Just on the west side.
Just the west side?
Just the west side.
on. Yeah.
Because of the census tract, we can only do the west side.
Okay.
Crazy, right?
Yeah,
There was a
there's a big
question.
difference in income from the west side to the east side that they make a difference in the census tract.
Yep.
So that's different from the place where we did the rest of the sidewalks have already been worked on, most of them have been.
Right,
Yes,
that was one of the sections that we did not approve funding for because we knew we were working on getting it through the CDBG. We didn't have enough to do the whole thing, so we put this into CDBG and the other into the TAP program. Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. And our last one is for the filming. Let's get the motion on the floor. And then any discussion, is there interest? We've gone back and forth on sort of offline, online, in between line on this definition. There any further discussion? Do we want to amend it? Do we want to go forward with it the way it's currently written? Do we want? I mean, the other option is to just take the definition out itself.
I think that, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I think the reason. So what it really comes down to is the law provides for compensation for merchants. Defining who is directly impacted is the real question, that the definition is what we've been wrestling with. And part of it is the fact that we have these three examples, as illustrative examples, where essentially it requires you to have your entrance blocked or the sidewalk blocked or street, or on your side of the street, on your street, parking spaces taken. And those are illustrations, which does leave for some discretion in the village administration to require, as part of the permit, compensation above and beyond that, because they're illustrations. Not, you only get it at these. Now, we had talked about putting in language saying at a minimum, As opposed to putting language as saying it has to be one of these three requirements. And I sort of, I know we went back and forth on it, and I think that at a minimum, what it does do is imply that there is definitely opportunities for people to advocate for increasing the applicability of the compensation. As opposed to if it's just illustrations, it still gives people the ability to come forward, but it doesn't spur it quite as aggressively.
I have no preference one way or the other. To
Neither
me,
do I.
it leaves, what we've done without adding the at a minimum is basically what we're currently doing.
Yeah.
It really leaves it on the back of the people that are coming to do the filming,
Mhm.
to negotiate and work out the
Right.
issues with the local merchants. It gets us out of the chasing after them to do it or don't do it. If the way that it works is if they don't do what, and we get enough of people complaining about it, they don't get to come back. We deny them the next time they come. And so it's worked in the past. Jack brought it up. It's worked fine. We went to the gentleman that you asked us to talk to. I forget his name now, but Andy talked with him and he said that our legislation is more than most communities have. To the contrary to what we were hearing from other people. So trying to come to a balance, I think we can do it either way. We can either add at a minimum or we can leave it the way it is. And it's still, to me, it's at a minimum. Because it's really up to the film company to work with our community to make it work. That's what the magic has been in the past, and it's kept us out of having to administer some fund or some process that, because if they don't do what's right by our community, we don't have them back.
I'm fine with all of that. My concern will continue to be is I don't want to see. Like, it's very clear in this that as the board, we are not here to enforce compensation. And as long as that's clear, I'm okay with how it's written. My concern is that people will come back like that gentleman did. And, look to us to provide some level of compensation that we are just not able to provide.
And
I don't
this,
know if this really addresses that.
Just a
Well-
point of information, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Pascal, we do have the power to enforce the 350, I think it's 350 per
Right,
day, is it, for directly impacted? If you're a directly impacted merchant,
yeah, I think so.
the film production
really
company
getting into it.
has to compensate the directly impacted $350 per day. That's for the storefront.
Right.
For above the storefront, I think it's $50 per
Yeah.
day. So we are going to be involved in enforcement, so to
Well,
speak.
no, she's talking about the fact that people coming
Right,
here and
yeah.
advocating person by person for us to make decisions that
Right.
override the administration.
Right.
And what I think is that is not what actually happened. He didn't come to us with that. He came to us with complaints about the way it was done. But I don't think we ever
I
even
mean-
entertained the idea that we were going to.
Well, he asked. for it.
Okay, well,
Very clear, that's what. he
then people can always do that. though.
Yeah, they still can.
It still can, but it's not, I don't think it's encouraged by this any more than it was before. If this provides I think the point is we're empowering the village staff to
Yep.
enforce this, to make the decisions. If there's a company that comes in and doesn't like the way that they do it, then they can come to us. If there's people that say I should have gotten some money, they could always come to us. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to approve it. They get 3 minutes to present it and then we.
The purpose of this process, which in my mind has taken us way more
Yeah.
energy and process than what was to take our contract and our code and try to codify the contract.
Right. And that I'm.
That's
aware
what
of
we've
that.
done.
Yeah, I understand that. But the point still stands is I don't like. So I'm understand that that's a rare case. He is a rare case. He's the exception. he's not
We've
the
had
rule.
other people that.
But that is just what I'm not sure that. If that is going to be an issue that is addressed, but I'm willing to not continue this conversation because it has gone on for long enough.
I'm not sure that we could bring it so narrow that it wouldn't have a possibility of coming to us.
Right.
So I think we've done a pretty good job of putting it of doing what we attempted to do. And so I want you to all know I'm in favor of not adding any more language, but I'm willing to add more language if people want to.
I'm fine with
I'm
it.
fine.
I'm fine.
Okay,
I think,
are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
And then.
That took us. It was a good process, but it really did take us longer. I think there are other important things for us to be focused on. And getting that done, now we can see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can always get back over it. Right, so we are now at public comment on, oh, wait a minute, I have one other resolution. It's not in your packet. I would like to appoint Joe Rand as deputy mayor as a marriage officer, so that he can perform weddings. There is a wedding coming up that I'm not able to be at, and since he's going to be doing it as of January 1, this gives us a chance to really attend the wedding and see how he does.
yeah, it's a try.
And if he doesn't do well, we can decide what to do after that. So,
The one question is, we'll have to ask the bride and groom how he did.
yeah, we'll ask them. So I'd like to ask for a favor of the board to because I didn't get a resolution written. It just came up today. The wedding's on the 27th. I'm not able to do it. Joe is, but we don't have another marriage officer.
If you
So
do,
actually, we don't. We did not appoint you last year. I forgot. We appointed you the year before.
you gotta be kidding.
We can point her too.
I'm done.
All right, so well, we could appoint, well, let's appoint both of you and then you can
No
decide
way.
who's gonna do it.
He needs, we gotta check him out.
I know, we need to make sure that we can actually pull this off.
I think the most interested person to find out what I will say when officiating wedding is my wife, what I will say about the virtues of marriage.
You know,
I will treat that. I gotta find something good.
She's the first person we should talk to.
yeah.
See what I think.
The most important thing is the last line, by the power vested in me. That's the only thing that most people want to hear. All the rest of the stuff,
They
they're
don't wanna
sitting
hear
there
anything
waiting
else.
for you to give those final
What
words.
they all have in common is none of them came to hear me speak when I come to a wedding.
Exactly,
That's the
exactly,
most
yeah.
important thing to remember.
So I'm gonna move that resolution. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I
Abstained?
abstain.
Joe abstains. He can't vote for himself, I guess.
Well, I can't vote against it, so
Yeah,
that's why, that's what I'm abstaining.
Thank you for giving me that privilege to do that.
Thank you.
We will now move to public comments on any item. I know that there's some folks that are here to speak to us about the Emergency Tenant Protection Act and where we are as a village on that issue. I have 4 points I'd like to make just to bring us up to speed of where we all are. And then we'll open it up to any public comment. There is a list up here for people to sign up for. If you didn't, we'll go with them first, and then I'll ask for anybody else to come up. I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes. I'll remind you when it's about 2 minutes, I'll raise my hand to let you know. If you go over, I'll ask you to wait for everyone else to go. We have surveyed all buildings that were built before 1974 and have over 25 units. We have one survey that remains outstanding. This is notice to the public that if that survey is not turned into the village administrator by the 30th of September, we will consider, as is written in the letter that was received by each building, that is a 0% vacancy. So that is public notice of that. They have until the 30th. They've been informed. This is a public display of that notice. Our plan is to consider and accept the administrator's report on the survey at our October 5th meeting. So our administrator will be presenting his findings to us on October 5th. If the vacancy rate is below 5%, we are currently planning to set a public hearing for our meeting on October 26th at 8 p.m. We can't set that meeting until we have heard the report. And And we also have some other things that we are working through with our attorney, which could possibly change that. But our intention is to move forward to have this public hearing on the 26th of October. We have also, the board has also received correspondence from Attorney Dennis Lynch about this issue. I want to remind you that I forwarded that to you this morning. That should be part of our deliberation when we get to that issue. But those are my 4 points that we will, one, there's survey outstanding. We're giving till the end of September to receive that. 2, the board will be considering and accepting the administrator's report on the 5th. If that report shows that we're under a 5% vacancy rate, we will consider, our current plan is to have a public hearing, to vote on having a public hearing. That will be a process to set a public hearing for October 26th at 8 p.m. And the 4th is to remind you that we have received, Attorney Lynch asked me to make sure that you all were aware of the correspondence and that he would like to come and talk with us when we do the public hearing. So those are the 4 things. Now we would be happy to have anyone come and talk to us about anything that you would like to talk with us. Jen, do we have the list?
I've already spoken to the other items.
Got it. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Any public comment on any item? Jen, do you want to speak about what we talked about? Or were you just here to listen?
Me?
Yeah.
No. I'm-
You had asked me to make sure that the board understood that we work with the Nyack Center on the summer project. We fund some of it, and some of it is also funded by private funding. So it's a partnership between the village. They come to us once we give the RFP to them, and they're awarded, if they are, and they have been each time. That then they go out and fundraise for the balance of the money that's needed to operate the summer program. Right, we had talked about that. Camp Nyack, sorry, yes. Any public comment, please? If you could come up, give us your name and your address, and then we'd be happy to hear from you.
My name is Miriam Rubinson and I live at 33rd Avenue, and there's a text amendment in front of you for 11 4th Avenue. Is it appropriate for us to comment on that?
Absolutely, it's appropriate to comment on anything that you would like to comment on.
Okay, so myself and some of my neighbors are here. 11 4th Avenue is directly abuts the back of my property. So the owner of this property first went to the ZBA and tried to get a variance there. We explained to him at that point, he was told it's really spot zoning. So he's come back, then he wanted to do 4 market rate units, 2 and 3 family apartments. He wanted 1.5 floors above the zoning regulations, where in the 2 family house zoning. His statement is that because it's across the street from waterfront, that he should be allowed to do what he wants. So now he's told it's spot zoning. The ZBA basically kicked it out. It's not an appropriate place. He's coming here. And again, in my opinion, looking at spot zoning again. And he's saying, look, there's a number of properties within the Nyack area that do not meet the zoning requirements, and therefore you should let him also do what he wants to do. And now instead of doing 4 market rate units, he wants to do 8 affordable units. Again, going well above the height restrictions. And we live in, although it's a 2 family zone, most of our homes are 1 family. We love our neighborhoods, we love our homes. And it would be detrimental to us and to our lifestyles and to our way of living to suddenly have this large, very noisy 8-unit affordable housing project directly behind our houses. And again, these are quiet streets, these are small streets. They are not built to have large buildings on them. And, you know, our property values would be destroyed, as well as our way of living. We have beautiful trees right now, beautiful views. And this would take it all away from us simply because he wants to make money. And again, first he came at it from a market rate perspective. Now he's appealing to you. And of course, it is very nice to see. And I work in affordable housing. I obviously am for affordable housing. But I bought my house and our neighbors bought our homes on small pieces of land, on small block. This is where we live, and to totally destroy our property values, we don't think is fair, all because he wants to make money. And just because it's affordable, people who own affordable properties make money too. And it's not okay with us to destroy our property values, and we object vehemently.
Right. Anyone else? Name and address,
Yes,
not that I don't know who you are, but just for the record.
my name is John Stoldorf. I live at 15 4th Avenue, which is right next to 11. We've been there 49 and a half years. And the first 20 or 30 years were very nice. We had an elderly woman, Helen Johnson, living next door, and all other people in the neighborhood got along well and so on. After she passed away, it was inherited by 4 of her nephews and nieces. It was a mixture of, I think, 3 girls and 1 guy. And they weren't very friendly. And they tried to sell the house on a number of occasions. The first time they listed it for 1.3 million. And no realtor would list it for them. So they were pretty, far out. Anyway. There are a number of things that could be done within the 2-family house range on that property that wouldn't infringe upon the neighbors, like the proposals that we've seen so far. And I'd be more than happy to discuss them with Mr. Vitale. But I find it hard to get him. I can't find a phone number for him. And the office that he has listed at 49 South Franklin has 4 different offices on, one on each floor. None of them are labeled. And none of them have windows that aren't blocked so that you can't see if there's lights on or if there's a person there or anything like that. So basically, I view this as kind of an unfriendly incursion into our neighborhood. And I don't know why he feels that he has to do it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's get your comments. When we get to it, I just want to make sure that we have a big explanation for it. Please.
My name is Gino Silvestri. I live at 106 Gedney Street. And I'm really asking for information. I'm kind of ignorant as to exactly what it means for a petition, a zoning text amendment as to relates to a zoning change.
Actually, as this started to come up, I actually texted our attorney and asked him to do that for all of us, to explain us the process and how this works. Because usually you have to be a real geek in this stuff to figure all this stuff out. So there are some technicalities and process that we're required as a village to go through whenever someone does bring a text amendment to us, which includes public comment, public hearing. It's be a law, but I should probably allow our attorney to be more precise. Is it okay with everyone that wants to make public comments if we ask our attorney to give us that explanation, so that we're all engaged from that level of information?
Thank you.
Mr. Michaels.
Hi. As you all probably know, the Village Board of Trustees, which includes the mayor, is the legislative body of the village government. And they're the ones who make the laws, they're the ones who amend the laws. One part of our village code, the village laws, is the zoning code. Anytime any person wishes for there to be an amendment to the zoning code, you can ask the village board of trustees. That can be done on the street informally. Hey, Mr. Mayor, I think we ought to amend our zoning code because we need to have more of this in this particular neighborhood or less of that. That's one way of doing it. And then the mayor, if he agrees or not, can bring it to the attention of the trustees. They can discuss it and say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's, Dennis, Andy, draft up village planner, draft up some local law that is a text amendment. That's what we're talking about. The other way is through a petition. That's a formal request in writing, usually through a professional of some sort, an attorney, an engineer, an architect, a certified planner, submits it to the mayor and the trustees, as we're talking about right now, as a petition, asking for a change, an amendment to the zoning code, a text amendment it's called. There's another way of amending the zoning code, and that's a zoning map change. So there's a text amendment. You're just changing the words, you're adding words, you're removing words. And there's also a zone map change where you're actually changing the zoning map. So there's a text amendment and there's a map change, sometimes both. Now, because it's a legislative act by the mayor and the trustees, there's no standard for the trustees. They can say, no, thank you, we're not interested in this petition. Have a good night, have a good day, thank you. They can exercise their legislative discretion with almost impunity, as long as they're not violating constitutionally protected rights. You can't say no to people because of their race, religion, things of that sort. So constitutionally protected reasons are not a basis to deny a petition or a request for a zone change. But just about anything else can be a reason to deny a request for this board to make a law or to change laws that it already has. That's it in a nutshell. What's on the agenda tonight is just a reference by the trustees that they've received a request to amend the zoning code by way of a text amendment. That's the petition. And they're just introducing it, but this certainly is not a public hearing. There's a fairly, I won't say complex, but semi-complex procedure that has to be followed. And the very first step is for this board to decide, which may not, probably will not be tonight, is whether or not they even want to consider this amendment to the zoning code. And again, they can say, no, we don't think it's a good idea, and that ends it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Public comment from any person. Please, when you come up, just give us your name and your address and then go right into it.
Sure, just to follow up. My name is Daniel Funvest. I'm at 16 4th Avenue. So also would obviously be directly impacted by this construction. My follow-up is has the text amendment or the proposed text for the amendment been received? Is there somewhere where we could read that?
I believe it has.
It's,
And
I
where
believe
would
it's
I
on
be
the
able to-
website with the agenda for tonight.
It's in the materials that are.
It's in the materials for if you go on our website,
Okay, I was looking at the agenda, but I didn't see that.
there's both the agenda
Separate text.
and then there is the
Perfect.
supporting document.
Thank you. Okay.
It's page 126, so you have to scroll quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a very long climate
Page
action plan.
126.
Thank you.
191. It's page 191.
Steve C. at 137 Sixth Avenue. I was just curious, based on what you said, can you have competing text amendments? So can two or more parties submit a text amendment for the same property with different?
There's no limit on the amount of requests that citizens and or others can ask the village board of trustees to amend their local laws. Could be one, could be thousands.
Okay, thank you.
You had to ask that, now we're gonna get it back. Please.
I don't like speaking in public, but here I go. My name is Jill McCabe. I live at 46 3rd Avenue. I respect his right to, propose this amendment. But I just want to also bring attention to your bylaws. 360.5.6, which states that if 20% or more of the area of land, including in such proposed change of that immediately adjunction with that, and people are actually protesting, which we all are protesting, and all of us that are surrounding him are in this room right now, except for the woman across the street. What's her name? Yeah, who sent a letter today. So we're all here and we're all directly impacted to this. My backyard is against his backyard, which actually has poison ivy just keeps growing over my fence, and I have to keep pushing it over and getting poison ivy medication from my doctor. And it even actually went into my the siding and lifted up the siding, these vines that are actually now still attacking my my trees, which I can't even get up to because they're so high. It's probably gonna wrap around my tree. So it's not being
You're
taken
gonna
care of.
run out of time if you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Poison ivy,
With-
not to text them.
No, I know. It's just that, but this is just gonna affect all of us. And there's a lot of other commercial properties if he wants to build a big structure, but to change this. If this is a single family home, we did not sign up to have all of this construction and a gigantic building blocking all of our views. With the parking, I've put in requests. I've had 2 accidents trying to pull out of my driveway. I asked them to block off that one spot across the street from my house with 2 accident reports. And I was told, no, there's not enough parking in the area for us to block off one spot for you, even with 2 police reports of accidents. And now you're gonna put giant apartment building there when they're gonna have people over and they're gonna have like, 8 families that are living there. You have one family who has, a mother and a father have a car. They have 2 children. Their children have friends. They all coming over. They have parties. They have things. This is affordable housing with a rooftop party on it, like overlooking my house. This just seems like an absolute nightmare. Like, I have an uncle, and when he comes to visit me, I have to put my car in the street because he can't walk very well, and somebody's gonna come and take that spot, and then I put it in my driveway so he can park right in front of my door. Like, this is not the area to put in a gigantic housing thing. It's not. I saw on 9W, there's a big commercial building. You could put something right there. I saw on 59 where the old KFC used to be years ago. There's a lot there that can be used for something. There's other spots to be used. And once you actually do this and allow this person, what's gonna stop the next person? It's just gonna be building after building after building, and then it's gonna be money. Developers are gonna come in. Oh, look at this, it's a single family house. We can knock it down and put a
You're
big
ready
giant
in 3
building.
minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will certainly invite you back up if you want to continue.
I'm Lisa Delmonico. I live at 43rd Avenue. My backyard abuts the property that we're talking about. And thanks for listening to me. I just wanted to say that all of us here, most of us came from living in New York City because we wanted to settle in beautiful Nyack. We didn't want to live in New York City anymore. We wanted to live in our beautiful neighborhood, which is great. And if this goes the way Mr. Patel wants it to go, I will 12 feet from my property line be looking at a 3.5-story building with people on the roof looking in. And it's the exact reason why I moved out of New York City, because I didn't want to look out my window and see someone looking in at me while they're on the pool. Underground parking, how's that going to work? There's some kind of water design thing that maybe mosquitoes would be at. Not being articulate, but I wanted to come up since everyone else came up too. I just wanted to let you know that other places, please don't go here.
Thank you. Other comments? You want to continue, go ahead.
You guys should make, you should say that, text, what is this thing called?
Text amendment.
A text amendment has to be publicly noticed too.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it will be.
This process is gonna, this
There's
will
nothing,
take,
there's literally nothing in front of us right now about this.
we'll have a
There's
petition.
something that I saw that says,
We
has a
have
little,
petition.
it has a little letter A, and it says, oh, it doesn't have to be publicly. I don't want to rely on like someone on Facebook at 3:30
No,
this
no,
afternoon telling me about
Just,
this.
just so you know, that's why I asked Dennis to do the process a little bit. anything that, if we pass any law amending our code, we have to have a public hearing. That has to be announced 5 to 10 days, depending on what the issue is, to the public. So if you just, and it'll be also noticed around the property. So
Yeah.
we do,
Not completely around last time, it wasn't completely around. No, but today's thing, I wish I'd been public, but
Today's thing isn't a thing.
Today's
Yeah,
thing.
okay. When it's in the agenda is put on the calendar, on the website,
yeah,
a week before the
Yeah.
meeting.
so.
So that's
Still
technically
have to
the
check.
There is notice, if there's any possibility of us taking formal action, that would be legislative, there's a public notice. And generally, the public meetings are announced at the meeting before the public meeting. Although we only have to give, like you said, 5 days notice, but we generally give notice. The way we've talked about there being a public hearing for the ETPA sometime in October, we generally give the notice well in advance, so
Okay.
that's.
and if people
Okay.
are thinking about it, we're generally, we allow the public hearings to stay open until we go through a good process to listen. So I think your concern will be dealt with if we do move forward.
I mean, we just passed the legislation on the filming, there's been like.
We've been going for 4 months to decide that.
Several months. Discussed it.
Okay,
Come on up.
I'll be quick. So I've lived in Nyack since I was born. And when I bought my house in 2010, I had all these dreams of what I wanted to do. It was gravel. I wanted to put pavement down. I was told, no, you can't have pavement because you're on a hill. And we're not doing any more, you can't build up anything. I also put in to the board, I wanted to put a pool in my yard, an in-ground pool. And Don, that was Don who told me I could not have, the blacktop, I had to have paver stone. So then I wanted to have a pool, and I actually spoke to Don before I even bought the house. I called and I said, I like this house, I want to have a pool in it. Do you think I'll be able to put an in-ground pool because it already has the above ground pool? Can I put an underground pool? He's like, oh, we'll have to revisit that. So I buy the house going, oh, I'm gonna put a pool in, and I'm like all excited, not thinking like, because I was young at the time. So I wasn't thinking like, you know, the consequences to other people. He said, you live on a hill, you cannot dig. You cannot have a pool. I was told no. So now he's saying that by digging, Don told me I could not have a pool by digging, you live on a hill, it could affect the people above you. If this property wants to be dug out with an underground like thing and like all this new concrete and things that are affecting the drainage of everything. And it could actually mess with our foundation if what Don told me is true as the building inspector. That if you're gonna be digging, this could mess with our houses as well. And that's another concern that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna close this section of public comment. Okay. I thought I saw it. I thought you saw it. I said, you're scratching your head. Okay, so we are now at our department reports. Would the board like to move I think the discussion about the zoning text amendment, the petition that's been brought to us. I'm not really prepared to talk about it at this point. I really have not done much study on it. We have not gotten any, I think the first thing, if we're even gonna move it forward at all, is we would need some sort of comments from our planner and building department. But do we want that as a board, or do we want to hold it off until our next meeting when we have a chance to really think about it some more? I haven't had a chance.
I think we should put it off to the next meeting. Most likely what we're going to do is refer to the planning board for their comments. So we can do that now, but if we ever have a chance to even look at it.
I have not had a chance to.
When did it come in?
I think it was last week, and towards the end of last week.
Stated since you.
Maybe it was beginning of this September 11th.
The one. But, you know,
So let's.
You mentioned, were you gonna before we discuss it, like, get an opinion from the plan?
I think the first thing is for us to decide whether we want to go through that process.
Oh, okay.
So we can, but I do think we should look, it's a petition made
Yes.
to us. It's
Right.
important that we read it, think carefully about it and deliberate on it. Not, it's whenever somebody gives us a petition, it's really important that we give our time and effort to make sure that it's something that we are not in favor of, or we are thinking about before we decide.
I wasn't sure if there was another step in between.
No, the other step is for us to decide at our next meeting whether we want to move forward with the process of getting in expert opinions on how this could be done. Okay. So that's where we are. All right, we will do this again at our next meeting. The board has really not deliberated on this at all. We just got the petition
In the packet.
in our packet, so we have to read through it and think about it before we go any further at all. Okay, we have to make sure that we deliberate appropriate on this.
Does it have to be anonymous, unanimous?
No,
Okay.
no, it's a majority vote.
Good.
Okay. Thank you. We will now move to our, you're welcome to stay. You don't have to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Doug, I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30.
We have plenty of exciting.
Yeah, we
things
have
coming.
really exciting things. You don't need to leave, but you can if you want. So we've been discussing at board individually and collectively, not so much in meetings, but just about our relationship to the town and the police department and how we make that better and move it forward. So I met with the Orangetown supervisor and Teresa Kenny, and I said to her, Teresa, I really think it's time for us to start attending the police commission meetings so that we are demonstrating a partnership with them. And when questions come up from our community, we're able to relay them directly to them. We do have meetings with them once a month, but this would be a much more formal sort of relationship. So I did attend the meeting on Tuesday. And they knew I was coming, so they responded to our concerns about the panhandler issues. And I think you have all, if you haven't seen, I would invite you to watch. You're seeing a lot more foot patrols in Nyack. And I think the efforts that we've made to build those relationships, the meetings that we've held, the process that we've gone through has resulted in an agreement that we do need additional community police. So we'll see how that goes. We'll continue to do that on board. I really think that the next board should consider appointing a liaison to the commission and make it formal. If the mayor wants to do that, that's okay, but I do think that it's important that we make an official statement as a board and as a board of trustees that this is something we're interested in doing to continue developing and working on our relationship. It's really important that we're always on the same page.
Can I ask, in any of that discussion, was there anything about having an Orangetown Police Department member come to our meetings once a month and also
That,
give a debrief as a.
that's
show off the
been,
buildings, support that?
We have a police report in the.
They used to
in
do
the-
that.
they used to do
Yeah.
that, then it turned into what happened was, a lot of the questions that were being asked by the board were not able to be answered because of privacy issues.
Mhm.
So it turned into a meeting with the mayor and the village administrator to get answers to those questions. That then can be relayed to the board in executive session if they need to be. We can certainly go back and ask them to have somebody come. I'm sure that they'd be willing to do that. I think I was not on the board at the time that ended. Marie, I
Yeah.
think you were. I
Yeah.
think you would say that those discussions were somewhat frustrating for the
Oh.
board.
Totally,
And
totally.
so, but you can certainly consider doing that again. I think this is a step, a little bit more. And then get this sort of relationship built. Then maybe having those discussions would be helpful to have in Orangetown Police. Detective, Sergeant Detective Palazzolo has come to some of our meetings if we ask him.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we could make that formal request if that's something that the board would like me to do.
I think it's worth doing as communication is a two-way street, so it can't be something that Nyack is constantly pushing out. And, you know, we're not getting in return as well. And not to say that that's not what's happening, the police have been very responsive to these issues, but, you know, we do still see comments from folks and hearing it on the street, so. I would like to.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I would say that a lot of the comments that have been made on Facebook have been absolutely incorrect. And for us to respond to every incorrect statement that's made on Facebook would make our lives miserable.
Oh, no, I,
So
totally
I'm not for that.
yeah, I,
So, well, I think people that come to us or write us an email about things is much more credible than somebody on Facebook saying that we've ended our free 15 parking when we haven't, or things of that nature. That's just me, and while I'm the mayor, I would rather us focus on the correspondence that we have directly with people than on responding to Facebook posts.
no, I agree, but I do think there is a need to see more of a presence, even just in village board meetings, to hear from our police officers directly.
I'd be happy to make that request. Marie, is you good with
I'm
that?
sorry, I could hardly hear her.
To make
Oh,
a request to have the Orangetown Police come to our meetings?
Yeah,
And be prepared.
I mean, yes, in
Let's-
some
let's-
way, I'm
Let's
not.
not make those sorts of comments.
Yeah.
That's
Joe,
okay.
you okay with it?
Absolutely, make a
Okay.
request, sure.
I'll make the formal request to them then.
At least at invitation, not necessarily at the regular intervals, but at a.
I mean, yeah, even if it's like quarterly or something, it would just be nice to hear from them
Well,
directly.
they do town once a month, so I think asking them to do more than once a month would be actually even more than they do with the towns.
Right, that's,
I think
Yeah.
once a month or once every other month, I think would be more than appropriate.
Right.
Okay, Dennis.
Yes, all I have is just some little tidbits of curious information. Do you know that the smallest village by population is Daring Harbor? It's in Suffolk County on Shelter Island. Have you ever been there? 50 people as of, I think, the 2020 census, 50 people.
you need
And
another.
the smallest village by, if you've never been to Shelter Island, definitely, it's amazing.
Your 3 minutes are up.
My geographic size is South Laurel Park in Nassau County, Rhode Island. 0.096 square miles. That's 1/10 of a square mile.
Do they have a board?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Wireless for them to
They have-
negotiate.
They have to have a mayor and a village board of trustees, both entities.
Your 3 minutes are up. And
A lot has happened since your last board meeting. Just a couple of things I just wanted to report on. We do have an operating food waste program now up at the DPW. People are dropping off their bags and food waste are picking up at the library and the village hall. And it's being transported down to Orangetown, thanks to Supervisor Kenny and others for facilitating that connection. So here we go with food waste diversion from our trash stream, which is a great step forward. The TAP project,
and you can pick bags up.
is some
downstairs.
downstairs.
Yep.
And there's some at the library.
There's some at the library.
And thank you for helping to divert some food waste out of the trash stream. It saves us money and it's better for the environment. And thanks to all our sustainability folks for pushing for that. The sidewalk project, the drainage at First Avenue is working. When it rains, the water goes around those bump outs, either north on Broadway or south on Broadway. And it's a beautiful thing. And so kudos to the construction company and others who stuck with that. Thanks so much to the Orangetown Sewer Department and others for coming out and helping us sort out all of the underground issues, which ultimately made it impossible to do a storm drain system underground. But we have a working drainage there, which is great. We're very close to finishing that project. We're gonna have some money left on that budget. We're going back to the state to see if we have options for adding work. That remains to be seen, so I'll keep you updated on that. The Bird Street sidewalks are built, they're beautiful. including a nicely kind of resurfaced section in front of the church there, which we couldn't actually tear that sidewalk out because there was a vault under there. And we all know how kind of difficult it could be sometimes in Nyack with underground infrastructure. So it came out nice. We're getting some new trash and recycling bins. There's 2 trees. And we actually had enough money to wrap around onto Cedar Street up past the bus stop, so that sidewalk got done as well. So thank you for that. The Memorial Park projects are coming along. We've talked about that many times. We're getting close to having final bid documents to put that out. There's some small changes that need to be made on those bid documents. So we really appreciate the support of the Rockland County office there, community development, and the ARPA office actually for helping us through the process. The village has purchased a cyber risk insurance coverage at the recommendation of our insurers. Part of that is that we all have multi-factor codes. You can no longer log on to your desktop without getting a little prompt on your phone as well. So it slows us down a little bit, but it's working really well. There's a lot of runaround, kind of evaluating our cyber risk situation and looking at the guidance from our insurance companies and the companies competing for our cyber risk policy also gives a lot of questions. In the process, we managed to get some stuff done and we ended up saving about $6,000 by implementing our multi-factor really quickly. So we got a good policy protecting us from. And just to note, everybody, just please be really careful when you're on the internet. Don't click on things if you're even the least bit suspicious of what they may be. We get phishing attacks all the time where people posing as the mayor email me saying X, Y, and Z. It turns out there's something a little funny about their email address. You get used to tracking it.
You didn't need those
Those
cards.
And by the way.
He's at meetings a lot, so it was very believable.
By the way, just so you know, our IT company will periodically do a fake phishing attack,
Yeah.
and they are taking names.
They got me
on that stuff,
They got me on some.
okay? So just don't embarrass yourselves by clicking on things because we'll come up. What else? The Mental Health Association's mobile unit, they were supposed to start this week. I believe they're starting next week now. Parking over by the Verizon building when the soup kitchen is operating, giving people easy access to their services. So we're organizing with them. That's part of one of the outcomes of all the meetings that the mayor and others ran related to the population, homeless population, indigent and their needs and so on. Then one message. I just want to thank the Nyack Center. Kim, very quick on your feet. Appreciate your help on the 9/11 ceremony.
Yes, thank you.
When it looked like it was gonna be a beautiful day and it looked like rain. I just wanted to say thank you to trustee Rand and all the others who helped organize that.
Anne Marie does everything.
And well, no, she helped out as well, but it was really, really nice presentation, and I think people really appreciate it. I think I'll stop there. Do you have any questions?
No, just a reminder to the board and to the public that we will not be meeting on the 28th of September. We'll be meeting on the 5th of October. And that's Andy will be on vacation, so we shifted that meeting around. So we usually meet on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays, but we won't be meeting on the 28th. We'll be meeting on the 5th. Jane, anything for us?
No, sir.
Okay, working through the communications, do you want to talk about the old business, the ambassadors program?
So I thought you were actually going to propose to the board that they spend some money.
Yeah, I already have, and they've all agreed,
Okay,
so we're good with that.
okay.
So, what's that?
Did we agree on this?
We
At the last
emailed
meeting,
back and forth
and we
about
had emails back and forth.
about.
All right, let me explain it, and then you can argue with me that you didn't, or that I overstepped my responsibilities.
Oh, wait.
We have the tourism money. This is going to
No,
be
I
used.
remember now.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
No,
No,
it's
that's quite all right. You should check me. So we're going to allocate $3,000 of the $5,000 that was left. I talked with Visit Nyack, we talked to the business council. Everybody thought it was a good investment of the funds. It will get us started. Because we have requested, if you remember, 15,000 from Zabrowski for a grant to fund the Nyack
Yeah.
Ambassadors Program. We wanted to get it started because we're still running into, it hasn't gotten to the right thing, we can't get the money, the contract's not ready. So we wanted to get it started before Christmas shopping hit, so that we had something in place for it. So we're gonna allocate $3,000 of those funds to get us started. Joe, you probably got something filled out by one of my students at RCC saying that he was interested in serving as a Nyack ambassador.
Oh, great, okay.
So he's doing his P-TECH senior project on our Nyack ambassadors program. Okay. His name is Jeffrey. So yeah, it's a P-TECH student.
No, yeah, I think they're really great.
Yeah, and it's amazing what they do for the community. They do it for free. So we do need some volunteers. Joe, I know you were soliciting volunteers, but then we would be ready to go through purchasing of T-shirts and starting to get the brand out there and doing some initial training so that we can get something out on the streets as quickly as we can in our Nyack Ambassador program. We will also work closely with the chamber to make sure that we're saying the right things that they want us to say and with Visit Nyack to ensure that we've got that ready.
Excuse me, could you detail that, ambassadors, I know the term and it has come up, but there was never any details with reference to it, and in that you brought the chamber in on this, and
There actually is details that
Okay,
was
good.
put out in a report. I'll send you the document.
okay, good,
All right.
thank you.
And I'll send it to Roger as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, so that will be our ambassador program. We'll be trying to kick that off when we finally get the grants from the state, we'll be able to expand it and move it forward. So we're now at communications, since we did old business and I was supposed to do it and forgot. I can't remember whether the entire board was sent John Carlio's email about parking.
Yes.
But he asked us to bring up two specific issues, which I'll bring them up tonight. Then we can just discuss them at our next parking authority meeting. The first is, he was requesting that we consider charging credit card fees to the credit card user rather than picking them up as the village. And the second, he asked us to add an agenda item into our discussions with the hospital, which I think actually he's got a couple of the things wrong, but I will check with President Geller to make sure that we're asking the right questions. But he's concerned that they stopped the valet and the bus back and forth to the parking lots, and I don't think that that's happened, because I remember the guy saying they're still continuing that. But I could have misheard, or he could have misheard, so I'll make sure that that's taken care of. But those two issues he asked to be brought up tonight, and we'll put them on the agenda for our next parking authority. We have correspondence from Joe Carlin for an after dark, after park hours, star and planet gazing gathering sometime in October in Memorial Park on the bridge viewing platform. I would say that, Joe, since you're here, once you get a little bit more of the details, I don't think anybody would be opposed to that. But when you get more of the details, if you would work with Andy, and then we can get a resolution to push it through.
Yeah, the problem is that, well, in a nutshell, we'll have a couple of telescopes. Viewing the planets, the moon, and whatever else is out there, but it has to be a
Clear night.
And, you don't know, I mean, that's the problem, so we can't.
He's really only asking for a relaxation of the closing time, right?
Right.
The closing at dusk, which I think we could give them a
Yeah, so why don't you give us a framework?
range of.
It- in October.
All of October?
I don't know, whatever, the way it's been going so far, I could have said,
We probably won't do it for the full month of October, considering the week before Halloween tends to get a little rambunctious and we don't
Yeah,
necessarily
the whole
want
week
to.
of October wouldn't work. 'cause
okay,
you're
the
gonna have
first,
so many
the
people
first,
in and out of there. Why don't you work with Andy on the dates so that we can
But
get
we're
a
open.
resolution, but we're
It's a
open
great
to
idea.
making it happen.
Is there a particular celestial event happening or?
this is what you get to see.
Okay.
See that? See Saturn?
Oh, yeah.
So you get to see with your own eyes.
So nothing in particular is happening, just,
Just patterns out there.
Saturn, Jupiter, Mars,
okay, the usual.
Moon. Maybe some
We
stars.
received a thank you note from Pat Doria for our support for Josh Friedrich's Memorial Bench. And we also got a support letter for the State and Local Clean Energy Partnership Act that we sent. That I signed and sent to them. Right, so I think that's the communications for tonight. We will now open up for last shot of.
There were two other items actually
Did I
that
miss-
came in late. One of them you sent to me, which was the ShopRite supermarket
yes.
has a kind of
Yep.
elected official coming to help bag groceries.
Yeah, what's the dates of that? I
That
forgot.
is on September 19th.
Which
And
is
it's,
Tuesday.
yeah, and it's, anybody is invited to contact,
I responded.
and you can bag groceries and it's
You should have all gotten the email,
We all did.
but just a reminder.
Yeah.
I sent that to all the trustees. So there's that, and also, I think also you sent this to me, Mr. Tangretti from the Knights of Columbus in St. Anne's Parish. Is offering once again to provide a creche during the Christmas period over at the gazebo. And he specified the dates for that in his, I think I have a copy of that here, actually.
Oh, what?
It's a creche.
It's a-
Crush.
And then nativity.
Oh, okay.
We've done that for the last 3 years, so are we ready to get a resolution with the dates and stuff for that? Are we ready for that? Get a resolution at the next meeting? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, did I forget anything else, Andy?
I don't know if I have any copies of that.
We can send it around to the board and just give us a.
Yeah, this is, if you want, just each have a copy of that communication.
No, I saw this. I just wasn't sure what a. Could just send a nativity scene. That's all, I'm just saying.
The technical term for nativity scene.
We weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you didn't go to that catechism class. Any public comment on any other item? Oh, Jen.
On the revised agenda, there's a request for a wedding on October 14th.
How did I miss that? Yes, there is. October 14th, the communications.
There's about 40 people.
Veronica
About 40
Pacho.
people. The reason why I shouldn't have forgotten it, because she asked me to perform the wedding. And I told her I couldn't until the board approved it, unless, or she would have to have it in the village hall. It is 40 people, which is bigger than what we've had in the past.
It's also, she's pitching it from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Oh, no.
So 5 hours.
It's not a wedding. She's doing a wedding, not a ceremony.
She used the word ceremony.
5-hour wedding ceremony? Am I officiating?
No,
Yeah, I can see why I can get 5 hours. You get me started.
you
I
can.
know what might happen.
We could have you do that.
She might be getting prepared.
There might be a fundraising this one.
Let's.
He'll start auctioning off the 9 centers auction items during the wedding.
5 hours is a long time. That seems like they
That's
wanted a
a long
window.
way in there.
We should narrow that.
Yeah,
Now, when
and it
they
can
say-
only be a ceremony. It can't be a reception and things down there. So I think we should ask her to give us a 1 hour block. That way it makes it easier for the person that's gonna perform and to set it into his schedule, so, right,
Do you want to limit the number of hours to
to an hour.
1 hour? Any hour of her choice, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna be less than that. I have people in and out of here in like 15 minutes. And they'll probably want to take pictures and stuff for a half hour.
It's like weddings to go.
Weddings to
It's
go.
so romantic.
Weddings on the run.
We're gonna try to bring some more romance to as the wedding,
Joe.
I know, what am I-
Joe,
what am I
the
called?
only, you are now an approved.
Wedding officiant.
Wedding marriage officiant, so. Well, I'm telling you, that most of the people want to hear the last words
I don't know.
that come out of your
I
mouth.
agree.
So, trust me,
You're very jaded about this.
I am. I've done probably 100 in 6 years, so. They're actually, if you ask me what's my favorite part of being mayor, is performing well. No doubt about it. Okay, anything else, Jen? Did I forget anything else? Because I want to get us out of here by 9:30, it's 9:31. So,
So tentative approval on the executive session.
yeah, I know, I know.
Before we do that,
I need to set an executive session.
before we do that, the tree removal, did we close the public hearing on that? I think we're keeping.
We're gonna keep the public hearing open, because I think the board, there was the board needs to review the document that Bob Galvin sent us. There was some, I understand, some very strong pushback on this caliper size
Planning.
tree from the planning.
Yes, that's what I was going
So,
to suggest.
Public hearing will be open, we'll do the public hearing again, but I think the board needs to get that information before we move forward.
You
Doesn't
have-
mean we're gonna change it, but you need to, it was
It's
a
in your
memo
packet.
that was sent to us.
There's a memo from the planning board, I think you should all read and consider. For or against what they have to suggest, and also. One thing on that I'd like you to do before you continue the public hearing is declare yourself lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act.
Give us the resolution.
It's my legal opinion that would be procedurally appropriate for any member of
Just
the
give us
Board of
the-
Trustees to make a motion that the Village Board of Trustees declares itself to be lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And any one of you can adopt that opinion, so moved as recited by the legal counsel, what do I need to say?
So
That's yourself.
Second,
Second.
Pascal, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Did you get that, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it for me.
anything else, Mr. Attorney?
Oh, we have to continue the public hearing, we have to make the announcement and all that, so.
So we will continue the public hearing to our next meeting on October 5th.
That's the tree removal.
The tree removal public hearing will go over to the 5th. We will entertain written comments between now and then. We will entertain any comments in public during that. We will most likely close public hearing on the 5th and vote on that one.
That's it.
We are now moving to comments from, first of all, we need an executive session for issues related to a potential lawsuit. I need a motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now comments from the village board. Pascal?
It's very nice, 9/11 ceremony earlier this week. Thank you to the Nyack Center for allowing us to use space. And that's it.
Exact same thing as to thank the center for accommodating us, and it went very well. You did a nice job. And we salvaged, everybody salvaged a good night.
I'll reiterate that. I mean, not only thank him and the Nyack Center who were great and accommodating, and whoever, I don't know woman's name, who was, thank her for us, because she was wonderful.
She was amazing.
She was great. Also want to thank all the people that participate. And I got the name of the post wrong, so I'm not gonna try to say it again, of the American Legion, but also the fire departments and police departments, and they all come together and at that event. And it's a lovely event, and hopefully the person who takes the mantle on to run it next year. And the way you chose me 3 years ago to do it and say, hey, this is the new trustee's job. We'll get an earlier start than I do getting it arranged every year, but I want to thank all the people who performed as well, and it was a nice event. It was a nice event. They did a great job.
Ditto on that, and it's Kim, thanks to your staff. They did a wonderful job. They really did. They're really amazing, welcoming. I was the one that was trying to push people out so she could go home. She was not, she was wonderful. So please thank her for this. And thank you to the center for allowing us to do that. It really was a wonderful event. The families are always so thankful to us for holding that event and for the fact that we remember them and are in touch with them during the weeks leading up to it is always very, very meaningful. And thank goodness we didn't lose anybody this year to that, to those, to the illnesses from that event. I know of 2 people that are very sick from the cancer that they got from that. But they're holding their own right now, so we're hoping that they're able to recover. Pastors Appreciation and Charitable Appreciation dinner for the Berea Seventh-day Adventist is October 26th, which of course is our board meeting. So this happens every year. But just so that you know that, I'll have this sent around to you. I just got this this week. Didn't get a chance to send it around. But Francis Pratt always asks us to comment at the Nyack Board. I usually bring greetings and then I run off to the board meeting. So it starts at 6:45 or 5:45. And usually it starts at 6:30. 5:45 sharp and starts at 6:30. Because the pastor usually has a hard time getting there, and they don't, it doesn't actually start at 6:30, they start at 5:45. But the pastor doesn't get until about 6:30 because he's usually coming from the city from his job. So but anyway, that's on the 26th, and I think I'm wrong. I was incorrect in my announcement that we would be holding a public hearing on the ETPA if everything goes. If we continue that process, I think I said the 25th, it's actually the 26th. Because that's when our meeting is. Special thanks to Andy for everything he's doing on the DRI. This is a major push to get this thing in, so I've actually not been bugging him as much as I usually do, so that he can have time to write. But we'll be reviewing that probably over the weekend and then finalizing it and getting it out before he goes on his vacation. So with that, I will entertain, no, I can't entertain a motion to adjourn because we will go, but I'll to move into exec session. Need a motion, second. Need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And hopefully we see